Sound.
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 Sound. Sound. Sound.
Found in sound.
Have you ever noticed how different things sound in an empty room? Compared to a room that's been treated for optimal sound, like here at the Chamber Studio in Nanaimo. In an empty room, sound reflects off of the hard surfaces, like the walls, ceiling, and floors.
When sound waves encounter a surface, they can be absorbed, transmitted, or reflected. In an empty room, the hard surfaces are highly reflective, causing sound waves to bounce off of them repeatedly. The bouncing of sound waves creates echoes and reverberation, which are the lingering sounds that occur after the original sound has stopped. A room's size, shape, and the materials present on its exposed surfaces influence the amount of reflection and echo that takes place in a space. In an empty room with hard surfaces, you might hear a clear echo, compared with a room with furniture, curtains, and carpets, or foam treatment that absorbs more sound, reducing echoes and reverberation. For example, compare the sounds of a clap. There are a few ways to improve the acoustics of a room to minimize the sound reflection, including adjusting furniture placement. Arrange furniture to create more sound absorption and reduce reflections. Adding soft materials. Use curtains, carpets, rugs, and soft furnishings to absorb sound waves. Installing acoustic panels. Mounting acoustic panels or foam, like those used at a recording studio, on reflective surfaces can absorb sound waves and reduce reflections.
I'm Rob the Viking. I am a producer. I started with hip hop, but I've kind of branched out into all kinds of different genres and things. And I have a recording studio here called the Chamber Studio, which can accommodate all kinds of different things, from voiceovers to vocals to full band. Well, we inherited the space already built and designed, and one of the real great things about this space is that it was acoustically designed for sound as a recording studio. So if you look at the walls, none of them are parallel. So sound is like, sometimes when you're in a cube in a square space, the acoustics are not great. There's all sort of pangs going on in 90-degree angles with sound. And if you look around, there's all different angles. I don't think there's any parallel walls in here, not even these ones. That was already here, and then we came in here and just kind of fine-tuned it for our needs. We built some panels for the walls. Yeah, that's about it, fairly simple. There's a really cool wall out there in the live room, which is adjustable for sound, where you can turn the panels and change the acoustics of the room for what you're doing. Usually for loud sources like drums and other things like that. Sometimes you want a more echoey sound in your room, and sometimes you want a more dry sound in your room, sort of a tight sound. In terms of a recording studio, it's always important to check your acoustics and sort of try to tune them to what you're doing. For instance, don't try to have like a huge set of speakers in a tiny room or a tiny set of speakers in a giant room. It's always important to balance things out and just to sort of treat your rooms in a way such so that when you're listening to that sound source, certain frequencies aren't being amplified by corners in your wall. Like bass sometimes get amplified. It's a very long waveform. The physical waveform is longer than the room itself, so you get it multiplying upon itself and building up. So just working on acoustics and things like that is very important for someone who's getting into the recording studio industry.
It makes sense that recording studios, whose focus is sound, would pay keen attention to acoustics. But what about other businesses? We stopped by a restaurant that took the initiative to create a better sound environment.
My name is Narissa Young. I'm a musician and a sound therapy practitioner in Nanaimo, BC. We're here today at the Bayside Resort in Parksville, BC, and we're talking about the recent installation of the sound panels in the room and some of the changes that made in the overall environment here, certainly for staff and musicians, for the customer experience. So after the pandemic, I came to the Bayside and started a discussion with the manager here. We, of course, wanted to return to music performing. I perform usually with a piano player, Scott Arkell. And this is a lovely room. It has been a beautiful resort for many years, and we had heard that they'd also just done a renovation in here, and we were excited to see where the grand piano that they own had ended up in the scheme of that renovation. We were delighted to find it was in the center of the room and that it was an important part of their investment here in creating the best customer experience. So we booked a couple of performances here, and right away I noticed that the sound in the room overall, not only was it challenging to get a good musical sound, but just the ambient sound in the room was unsettling. There is a tremendous amount of reflection. I don't know if you can see the windows behind me. There's a lot of glass. There's a lot of hard wall and floor surface. So every sound that's happening in here, whether it's conversation, and trust me, when you've got a full dining room, there's a lot of conversation. Live music coming through a PA, you know, vocals coming through a PA. You've got a big, beautiful grand piano that they've invested in. And there was a feeling of overwhelm in that. So as a performer, I found it difficult to hear properly what I needed to hear, because some of what we are using when we're performing is reflection off the room, natural reflection. If there's too much, of course, and too much is too much. I also found a lot of the conversation noises, you know, plates and glasses, cutlery, staff conversations passing by. It was just all overwhelming, and I had to figure out why. It's the reflection in the room. It's far too much. And I knew right away they needed to treat this room in order to create the best customer experience. It was as simple as that. So I had a chance to talk with Tracy, one of the managers here at the Bayside, and she was very receptive to it. She right away got a hold of somebody to do a professional consultation, and then right away they made the investment and did the installation. You talk to anybody who comes in here, regulars, the musicians that play here regularly, certainly staff that works here, and they have noticed a massive difference. So what does that mean? You know, is it something we're just hearing that we think, well, it sounds better? It's way more than that. We don't realize that current of anxiety that noise causes, right? Noise in this environment, I can hear it in the other room right now. You know, there's conversations, there's an espresso being made somewhere, there's dishes. All of that constitutes noise. So it's a whole bunch of frequencies. So noise over prolonged periods is stressful to the nervous system. And most of the people that come here won't know why. They won't be able to identify it, but it will impact their experience here. And it certainly did for me as a musician. It's a lot more work to perform in an environment that is noisy, you know, and feeling like you've got to find your right sonic space within that without adding more to the noise floor. And we want to do the best we can too, right? We want to create the best experience that we can. So I was delighted to see that they had made the investment and installed the sound panels. To me, this is a solution that a lot of venues could take and have tremendous benefit. As I mentioned, it benefits the staff, it benefits the clients, it benefits the musicians who are here, really everybody. It's just a win for everyone. That's it.
Hi, my name is Haley, and I'm one of the assistant managers at Bayside.
How long have you been here?
For 6 years now. Yeah, it makes a big difference for sound travel, so it separates the dining room from the lounge in a nice way. Gives it a bit more space for sound to not travel if we have different music stations going. The lounge will have our radio playing more tunes than we do with the rest of the restaurant. It's connected to our lobby, and they all just play the same through our station, unless we have the live music entertainment, which then it really helps with that. People like to stay a long time and linger, and then probably notice it with how close our tables can be, that they don't hear as much of the conversation between other tables as well, which probably makes it a nicer experience for them. Overall, I think it's great.
My name is Sterling McCullough, and I'm the Bayside restaurant manager in Parksville. I've been here for 3 years as of August. With the sound panels being an addition to the room, they didn't take away from the view that we have here at the Bayside either. Like they end up matching our color scheme, being a nice gray to match our silver and gold. The first day they came in, I'm just looking at the room and I'm like, something seems different, something seems better, but I can't quite tell what has changed. And then the harder you look, you're just going to notice that they're hanging all over the place and that they actually did make a huge effect within our dining service. I've had people ask before, they ask what they are. Occasionally I've had a guest assume that on the pillars that they're a cushion in case they bump into them. And then I get to explain that no, we had them installed so that we could better benefit the sound array of the room.
So, are there any easy ways to improve sound experiences in private homes?
So what are we doing today, Narissa?
Well, we thought it might be a fun and useful idea to make some sound deflecting panels as a kind of a group craft. And in the end, what we're going to end up with is functional art. Yeah.
How come we want to make sound panels?
Well, because sound in our lives is an important part of our experience, and it's not always great for us. You know, I like the other one better. It's not always great for us because sometimes, I don't know if you can tell, but right now it's very reflective in here, right? And it's very hard on the nervous system sometimes because it's too much, it's too stimulating, especially if you get a room like this that is full of people talking, or if there are dishes and cutlery, and it can be very hard on the nervous system, right? Because it enters as noise. And, you know, certainly if you're working or living in that environment for a while, it wears on you actually after a while, and you don't maybe notice what the source of the stress is. It's just you feel a little edgy or you know? Mm. So this is a way to soften it, to soften the space and have it feel better, so that you can be in it. You know, if you ever go to a really nice restaurant, for example, they've looked after things like that with big soft curtains and fabrics in the room, maybe carpet. But a room like this is bare wall and there's glass over here and there's hard floor. So it can be very noisy in here when there's dishes and conversation.
Mm-hmm. So the sound panels will dampen the sound, or they absorb sound?
They will dampen the sound and make it less reflective. So instead of the sound going out from the fork on the plate or the voices over top of each other, they will, instead of them bouncing around, they'll get slowed down and hopefully stopped. So we're experimenting today with a few different designs. We don't have any scientific measurements, but we have a fantastic attitude. Mm-hmm. And good company. Yeah.
So we have Narissa and Jadranka. Yes. Can you tell us about yourself?
Well, I'm an artist. I love what Narissa is doing, and I really enjoy what she's been doing with sound and how much it helped me to calm myself down. And when she talked about this, I thought this would be a great thing to implement in my own art. I'm a painter, and putting that in back of my canvas, and so people would get benefit not just on pretty art pieces, but the sound, better sound in their home, hopefully. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, great idea.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
And thanks for bringing the canvases.
My pleasure.
Narissa, viewers who saw Season 1 of Found in Sound will be familiar with you, but would you like to talk about your work?
Yeah, so I'm a sound therapist, so I do help people focus on their relationship with sound and then use it therapeutically to help them a lot with their nervous systems, helping people get back into a rested state where their bodies can actually do repair and get better sleep and be happier, calmer people, creating better results in their life. That's really my passion. I love helping people win in their life and knowing that that person is going to have a ripple because they're going to go into their families and their neighborhoods and communities and their workplaces and create better results. So it's really, you know, certainly more than one person at a time. And a big part of that is the relationship with sound, because there is a lot of sound around us that isn't helpful. There is it's creating stress on our nervous systems, and you know, we already have enough to deal with on a day-to-day, just being a human. on the planet, trying to make the best out of our experience. So I'd like to help soften that experience a little bit and encourage people to be better listeners all around, really, you know, not just within a physical space, but within themselves and within a community. So that's really my passion, helping people win.
You know, it's interesting, I find when I'm out grocery shopping and you're in a smaller grocery store, it's not as echoey, you feel a little more comfortable, but you go to a larger kind of warehouse grocery store and it's very echoey. There's no music maybe, and you almost feel stressed.
Yeah, for sure. It's cavernous, it's cold and impersonal. And there's also the feeling of, it doesn't feel warm and safe, you know, and I think that's a big deal for people these days. You know, not just shopping. This isn't just about, you know, how can we make this large place more effective so they can have more profit. The thing I'm trying to focus in on is creating spaces that feel better so that we're happier human beings being together in a more positive way. You know, I will choose where I shop, how it feels, and to me is important. There's a cafe that I went to once that as soon as I walk in, I know I can't stay in there because it's all glass, tile, stainless steel, hard walls. You know, there's cups and dishes and talking, and everything is reflecting, and I feel absolutely bombarded, and I have to get out. I just know I don't feel like I'm going to enjoy the experience. So that's really what I'd love to see people become more aware of, is we're creating experiences with each other, and not just in business, in relationship, in our life, you know, in our relationship with the earth. What kind of experiences are we creating, and what role does sound play in that? You know, it can be something that, like here, I just want to soften this room so that it's a nicer room to have dinners in. That's a nice, achievable goal. Will the food taste better? Probably. Yeah. Right? I think so. And then let it go out from there. You know, it can be into a therapeutic realm. So let's talk about care facilities. Right? I have a family member in a care facility, and this one of the first things I noticed when I walked in there was, wow, it feels like a cafeteria. You know, there's so much reflection. How can my loved one feel at ease or you know, even do healing in this environment? So I think there's huge improvement that can be made in there. And again, it's for people. This is you know, profit may improve, sure, whatever. This is for people. This is what I believe this time in our world is about, is creating experiences for people. We can be successful in many, many ways.
We started our sound panel project with a canvas and covered the front surface with foam pieces. Using a hot glue gun to attach the pieces. Next, we measured and cut a piece of the fabric to fit over the canvas and foam. We folded the edges of the fabric and used a staple gun to secure the fabric to the back of the canvas. Then we nailed the staples so they were flush with the wood, allowing the canvas to hang flat on the wall.
It's funny.
I
It
think
looks like
we did
a
pretty
looks
good.
like a lumpy pillow.
Yeah. Hey, hey.
Shiny. We're not there yet.
Yeah.
Too soon.
There were two options for the final step. Install hanging wire on the back of the canvas by screwing in two hooks on either side of the wooden frame, measuring the wire to fit the frame's width, and cutting the wire. Or nail a sawtooth picture hanger to the back of the frame.
You can hang it on the wall. Yay!
Jadranka tried a different approach.
So my pieces are facing different way because I'm going to use front of the canvas. Imagine that this is my masterpiece. And so when you put this on the wall, you're gonna not just get really good sound in your room, but you're gonna have an image,
Very nice.
a painting, or
Nice piece of
something.
art.
Nice piece of art.
Functional art.
Yeah,
Yeah.
functional art. So right now I am just putting it in, lying it. I'm not even gonna glue them because I don't think it's necessary. I think I cut them just perfectly that they can just be lined in. And then I will use the glue gun to secure the back. Just like that.
And then
You
you
can
could
use-
still do a painting or make
Yes.
a collage or something on
Yeah.
the front. That'd be a good one too for making a collage or even decoupage or something. Cover the front.
Or you can make your own vision board.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
You can do that. There's sky's the limit. Just your imagination and you.
Jadranka really has proven that the sky is the limit, as she has continued to incorporate the soundproofing materials into some of her larger canvas artworks, creating paintings that are as functional as they are beautiful.
I'm very grateful to everyone who contributed to the Found in Sound series, and I'd like to extend a heartfelt thank you for your support. While we may not have discovered a tone that we could just broadcast throughout the world and bring peace for everyone, we did learn how sound, music, and vibration can profoundly affect our lives. And how even the most seemingly silent of life on Earth is actually worth listening to.